So in today's video, we'll be going through the green card marriage interview process and some sample questions. I will provide you with approximately 20 sample questions which will be asked during your green card marriage interview. These are the actual questions that I was able to collect online through communities and by interviewing a few people about their interview process and what kind of questions they were asked. So this would really help you prepare for your interview and help you pass your green card marriage interview so you can move on to the next step. Okay, so let's proceed. So what will I be covering in this video? Number one, when will your interview be scheduled? Number two, the length of the interview. Number three, what to bring to the interview. Number four, after the interview, so the decision timeline. And number five, I'll also provide some tips from the community. And finally, the sample questions and answers, which I did mention, are the actual questions you will be asked during your interview. Okay, so when will your interview be scheduled? Timing and location, typically scheduled about 10 to 12 months after filing your I-130 and I-485 if you're inside the USA. So I believe the I-130 is if you're outside and your I-485 is if you're inside the USA. And the interview is typically 7 to 30 days after receiving the interview notice, but it can take months depending on your regional field office FO. I guess that depends on how busy the FO regional field office is, okay? So here's a user experience, which is number one, which I was able to find online. Now this is actual testimonial. We filed our I-130 and I-485 concurrently in early February and got our biometrics appointment about 3 weeks later. After that, we didn't hear anything for a while, which honestly made us anxious. Around mid-June, the status finally changed to interview scheduled, and the letter came in the mail about 10 days later. Our interview was set for late July, so roughly a 6-month wait from filing to interview. Now the length of the interview. Some interviews are 15 to 30 minutes. These are considered straightforward interviews. If there's suspicion of fraud or need for details, it can extend to 1 to 2 hours. This is done to ensure the documents, stories, and everything matches even when spouses are separated. User experience number one, about the length of the interview. You're gonna spend most of the time in the waiting room. We had to go through security, then to a reception desk to take pictures and fingerprints. Then we spent almost an hour and a half in the waiting room. The interview itself took about 20 minutes, but the total time spent in the building was more than 2 hours. Here's another experience. We are in the Washington, D.C. area, got there 30 minutes early, checked in, and waited nearly 2.5 hours for us to get called in. We maybe spent 30 minutes total in the interview. Painless and smooth interview. And finally, user experience number three. Our interview ended up taking almost 2 hours because the officer clearly suspected fraud. They separated us and asked very specific questions about our daily routine, the layout of our apartment, even which side of the bed we sleep on. We had plenty of evidence, but they kept circling back to the same details, trying to catch us inconsistencies. It was stressful and we left unsure of the outcome. A week later, we got a notice saying the case was under review. It took another 2 months before we finally got approved. Definitely not the easy, quick interview others described, but if your relationship is real and your answers are honest, you'll get through it. All right, that's great information to know. What to bring with you to your interview. So original documents if possible. Bring originals if you can, as well as a photocopy of everything. Makes it easier for them so they can just take it. So what I mean by that is if you take photocopies with you, then they can just take the photocopies. But if you take only originals, they'll have to make photocopies, which will take more time. But if you bring photocopies with you, I guess they can keep that for themselves. Ideally, you would have a copy of everything you have submitted just in case the interviewer doesn't have it or can't find it. Other documents, bring IDs, marriage evidence, financial documents, and a photo album. A friendly officer may review these, ask a few relationship questions, and grant time to share more evidence. User experience number one. Bring originals of birth certificate, marriage certificate, visa entry docs, marital evidence, etc. Chances are they will not be looking at any of these documents unless they are in a relatively new marriage in which they will start to see new marital evidence. You don't need to bring copies of the applications, but it can't hurt. Okay, so chances are many of the officers won't look at these documents unless it's a fairly new marriage in which they will want to see new marital evidence. So evidence of new marriage, what happens in a new marriage, okay? So that's a great user experience to pay attention to. Number 2, I brought all the original documents and photocopies, joint taxes, utility bills, bank account statements, mail addressed to both of us, 40 A4 sheets with photos of all the memorable events and descriptions, original photos in a photo album, practicing questions and feeling prepared, praying it will go well. And user experience number 3, we brought a binder with everything, copies of our I-130 and I-485, joint bank statements, utility bills, lease agreement, health insurance showing both of our names, wedding pictures, vacation photos, and even greeting cards we had given each other. I also included our tax returns and pay stubs. The officer didn't look at every document, but she flipped through the photo album and took a couple of our bank statements for the file. She said it was one of the most organized cases she'd seen. Better to over-prepare than miss something important. So you see, it's always a great idea to prepare in advance, because that actually adds value to your case when you come super prepared, okay? So just like this person did, they kept a copy of everything and brought everything, so it was less stuff for the actual officer to ask for. And when the officer went through a few things, she was very happy with the information, okay? So after the interview decision timeline, outcomes vary. Immediate verbal approval is common. One applicant received on-the-spot approval and saw electronic notice of approval 4 days later. Others got approved status within a week, though official cards may take 45 days after entry for consular cases. If delayed, 30 days is a typical estimate, but some report waiting several months, especially if background or FBI checks are pending. User experience number 1. My husband recently had his I-485 interview with USCIS. The USCIS officer told me on the spot after asking one question and verified my information. He then printed and gave me a congratulatory letter saying I had been approved. It was updated in my portal the next day. User experience number 2. I had my interview on April the 5th. Nothing changed on my digital account after the interview. The officer was super kind. More than a month later, on May 10th, I received notice that the USCIS is actively reviewing my case. 2 weeks later, which is yesterday, got notice of approval in my digital account. And user experience number 3. These are actual experiences from people. I just want to reiterate that. Our interview seemed to go fine, but 3 weeks later, we received a denial notice citing insufficient evidence of bona fide marriage. We were shocked, said we submitted a thick folder of photos, joint bank statements, leases, everything. The notice explained that they wanted more substantial proof of shared residence and finances. We have 30 days to appeal or refile, and we're gathering notarized affidavits and more documentation now. It was devastating, but we plan to challenge it with the full package next. So tips from the community. Take as much evidence as you can. Sort by folders and be super organized. Make sure driver's license addresses match. Don't be too PDA and don't look at each other. Look at the IO, which is the officer. Bring originals and photocopies of everything, even the documents from your initial filing. It makes it easier for them to take what they need. Go over your application inside and out. Be familiar with every detail. Better to be over-prepared than under-prepared. Okay, next, do a mock interview with your spouse, especially if you might be interviewed separately. Practice common questions so your answers sound natural, not coached. Now, common questions are gonna be provided in this video, okay? So when you get a chance after this video, you can practice these common questions and answers with your spouse before your interview, okay? Bring both new evidence and anything submitted previously, photos, lease, insurance, tax returns. Officers often ask if you have anything additional to share. Be concise and to the point. Don't volunteer extra information. If you don't understand a question, ask them to repeat it. All right, great. So now let's look at some of the sample questions and answers. Now, these are the actual sample questions you will be asked during the interview. These were gathered through communities, through forums, as well as interviewing some of the people that went through the green card marriage interview. So in the beginning, you'll find out exactly what the officer is looking for and why they asked the question. But afterwards, it is important that within the sample answer, that you do customize them with your own personal experience, family history stories, and more, okay? Now, I just want to let you know that before I get into these sample questions and answers, you can download all of them by making a minimum donation to my channel. I really would appreciate that. Actually supports my channel and allows me to keep doing what I do, which is go out, research, put together this information, and provide quality videos. So after this video, if you want a copy of these questions and answers, I have posted the link below that you can click and you will be taken to a page where you can download every single one of these questions with answers, and that way you have a physical copy of them that you can practice with your spouse before your interview. All right, let's get started. First, let's start by looking at some common questions based on your relationship history and engagement. Question number 1. How did you meet and when? The interviewer will ask you this question to verify that your relationship began naturally and genuinely. They're looking for consistency with your forms as well as personal details that reflect a real connection. It's also a way to observe how naturally and confidently both spouses recall shared history. We met in October 2019 through a mutual friend who invited us both to a game night. Neither of us was really expecting anything. We just went to hang out, but we ended up talking for hours. After that night, we stayed in touch and started texting pretty much every day. A week later, we went out for coffee, which turned into dinner and a long walk. That was our first official date, and from there things developed naturally. We started seeing each other regularly, introduced each other to our families within a few months, and really built a strong connection early on. It's been a steady, committed relationship since then. Question number 2. Who sent the first message? When and where was your first date? In this scenario, we explore a situation where you both met online through a dating website or an online dating app. First, here's why they ask this question, followed by a great sample answer. USCIS asks this to assess whether the relationship developed naturally and whether both partners recall key moments similarly. These kinds of details help verify that the marriage is real, not staged, and that both spouses have shared experiences they can speak about comfortably. I sent the first message. We met through a dating app in November 2020, and I liked her profile because it mentioned a book I had just finished reading. I sent a message about it, and we hit it off right away. We talked online for about a week before meeting up in person. Our first date was at a small Italian cafe downtown. Nothing fancy, just a cozy place where we could really talk. We were both a little nervous, but the conversation flowed easily. We ended up walking around the neighborhood after dinner and talking for hours. That date really set the tone for everything that followed. It just felt easy and real. Question number 3. When did your relationship become serious, and how did you know? This question helps determine how your relationship progressed over time and whether the commitment developed in a genuine, believable way. They want to hear specific milestones or emotional turning points that show real connection, not just vague or rehearsed answers. Our relationship started getting serious about 3 months after we began dating, around February 2021. We had been spending a lot of time together, talking every day, meeting each other's friends and families, and supporting each other through everyday life. I think the turning point was when my dad had a health scare, and she was there for me every step of the way. That kind of support showed me that this wasn't just casual. We were really becoming part of each other's lives. After that, we started having more serious conversations about our future together, including marriage and where we wanted to live. It just felt like we were building something long-term. Question number 4. Who proposed and how did it happen? USCIS asks about the proposal to verify the relationship evolved naturally and involved personal, memorable moments. A genuine couple will usually recall the proposal clearly and with emotional or situational detail. They also want to confirm that both spouses have the same version of this story. He proposed in June 2021 while we were on a weekend trip to Asheville. We were hiking near a waterfall, and he asked me to stop so he could take a picture. Then he got down on one knee and asked me to marry him. It completely caught me off guard in a good way. He had even arranged for someone nearby to take photos without me knowing. It was simple, sweet, and very us. We had talked about marriage before, but I didn't expect it to happen that day. I said yes right away, and we celebrated with dinner that night back in town. Now, here are some common wedding and honeymoon-based interview questions. Question number 5. When and where did you get married and who attended? This question checks for consistency with your paperwork and helps verify whether your wedding was a legitimate event. They're not looking for a lavish ceremony, just details that show it was a real, documented marriage. Knowing who attended and what the event was like can further prove the relationship is genuine. We got married on October 15th, 2022 at a small ceremony at the county courthouse in Austin, Texas. We kept it simple because we were focused on getting the paperwork started and didn't want to delay the process. My sister and her husband came, along with two of our close friends who served as witnesses. Afterward, we had dinner at a nearby restaurant with everyone who attended. We do plan to have a larger celebration later with extended family, but for us, the courthouse wedding felt right. Quiet, meaningful, and stress-free. Now, let's explore another answer to this question, but rephrased in a slightly different way. Question number 6. What was your wedding like? What food was served? This question helps determine whether your marriage was a real, shared experience. Officers listen for specific details about the event, such as who attended, what kind of ceremony it was, and how the day felt. It's not about how big or expensive the wedding was. It's about whether both spouses can talk about the event naturally and consistently. Our wedding was small but really meaningful to us. We had it at a local park on a sunny Saturday afternoon, surrounded by about 20 of our closest friends and family. We both wanted something low-key and personal, so we kept the decorations simple. Just some string lights, flowers from a local market, and a playlist we made together. My cousin officiated, and it felt more like a family gathering than a formal event, which is exactly what we wanted. After the ceremony, we all went to a nearby restaurant we love and had a buffet with grilled chicken, roasted vegetables, pasta, and a small dessert bar with cupcakes and fruit tarts. Everyone said it felt warm and relaxed, and we were just happy to celebrate with the people who've supported us. Question number 7. Did you go anywhere for your honeymoon? If so, where? This question checks whether you and your spouse shared meaningful time together as newlyweds. A honeymoon isn't required, but if you did travel, officers want to hear matching stories and basic details. When you went, where you stayed, and what you did. It's one more way to confirm your relationship is real and ongoing. Yes, we went on a short honeymoon about a week after the wedding. We both had limited time off, so we decided on a long weekend in Charleston, South Carolina. It's only a few hours from where we live, but we'd never been there before and wanted something relaxing but still special. We stayed at a cozy bed and breakfast that had a lot of charm and spent our days exploring the historic district, walking along the waterfront, and trying out different restaurants and bakeries. One afternoon we took a carriage tour, which ended up being one of our favorite parts of the trip. It wasn't extravagant, but it gave us a chance to slow down and enjoy that time together before jumping back into everyday life. We still talk about going back someday and doing a longer version of the trip. Here are some common daily life and household interview questions. Question number 8. What is a typical weekday morning like for you both? This question helps verify that you live together and share a real daily routine. Officers are looking for simple but believable details that show you know how your spouse spends their time and what your mornings look like together. A typical weekday morning starts around 6:30 a.m. I usually get up first to make coffee and pack our lunches while they take a quick shower. We like to eat a light breakfast together, usually toast or yogurt, before we both start getting ready for work. It's a little rushed, but we always make a point to check in with each other before heading out the door. We've fallen into a rhythm that just works for both of us. Question number 9. Who usually wakes up first? This question checks whether you know each other's routine and habits. It may seem small, but mismatched answers could raise doubts about whether you actually live together. Usually, I wake up first around 6:30 a.m. I'm more of a morning person, so I take care of small things like starting the coffee, feeding the dog, or packing lunch. My spouse gets up about 20 minutes later, and by that time I've already started getting ready for work. It's a small part of the day, but it sets the tone for everything else. Question number 10. How do you divide household chores? This question is meant to show how you function as a household. Officers want to see that you've established a shared life and responsibilities, not just living in the same space, but cooperating as a couple. We've found a system that works really well for us. I usually handle the kitchen and the laundry while they take care of vacuuming and taking out the trash. We both chip in on dishes and grocery shopping, depending on who's home first. On weekends, we do a deep clean together and knock out anything we missed during the week. We don't keep score, we just try to keep things balanced and fair. Before we continue, I just want to take a moment to thank you for watching this video. You can download a copy of these interview questions and answers in PDF format by clicking on the link below and supporting my channel by making a minimum donation of $3. Your support allows me to keep creating valuable content to help you pass your interview and land your dream job. Thanks for your support and appreciation. Question number 11. Who cooks? Who cleans? This is another way to verify your shared domestic life. It also shows whether your answers match your spouse's and reflect a lived-in relationship. We both cook, but I probably do it more often since I enjoy trying new recipes. My spouse usually handles cleaning up afterward, especially the dishes, which I don't mind skipping. On busy days, we might just do something simple like frozen meals or takeout. We're both pretty flexible and try to keep the house tidy as we go, so it never really piles up. Question number 12. What kind of daily communication do you have when apart? Texts, calls. They want to know if you're genuinely involved in each other's lives when you're not physically together. Consistent, natural communication patterns help reinforce the authenticity of your relationship. When we're apart during the day, we usually text each other a few times, just checking in or sharing something funny. If either of us is having a stressful day, we'll make time to talk during a break. We always call each other after work just to catch up and make plans for the evening. It's nothing overly scripted, we just stay in touch the way any couple would. Now, here are some common home and living situation interview questions. Question number 13. Do you live together now? Have you lived together in the past? When and where? This question helps confirm cohabitation, which is a strong indicator of a legitimate marriage. Officers want to see if your living history matches what's on your application and whether both spouses share consistent details about where and when you've lived together. Yes, we live together now in a one-bedroom apartment in Atlanta. We moved in together in July 2022, about 4 months before we got married. Before that, we were spending a lot of time together, but still had separate places. We decided to officially move in together once we knew the relationship was serious and long-term. Since then, we've been sharing the same home and building our daily routines together. Question number 14. Describe your home layout, including number of rooms, living arrangements, and toothbrush placement. Interviewers use this question to determine how well you know your shared living space. Couples who live together typically know where basic items are and can describe the layout of their home without hesitation. Our apartment has 1 bedroom, 1 bathroom, a kitchen that opens into a small dining area, and a living room. When you walk in, the kitchen is on the right and the living room is straight ahead. We keep our toothbrushes in the bathroom in a single cup on the sink. Mine is blue and theirs is green. We also have a small shelf near the front door for keys and mail, and our cat's food bowl is just outside the kitchen entrance. Everything is pretty organized, and we each have our own spaces within the apartment, but we share everything. Question number 15. What color are your curtains, walls, fridge? What flooring? These questions are meant to catch people off guard and see if both spouses can give matching answers about their home. It's a quick way to assess whether you actually live together and notice your surroundings. Our walls are a light beige color, standard for the apartment complex. The curtains in the living room are a dark gray, and we chose them together from Target. Our fridge is white, and we have a few magnets and a calendar stuck to it. The flooring in most of the apartment is a light wood-style laminate, but the bathroom and kitchen have tile. We didn't pick everything ourselves since it's a rental, but we've made it feel like home. Great, here are some common finances and future plans interview questions. Question number 16. Do you have joint bank accounts, credit cards, or shared expenses? Who pays which bills? This question helps verify that you're financially interdependent, one of the key signs of a bona fide marriage. Officers want to hear if you share money, expenses, or manage bills together, which reflects real life as a couple rather than a staged relationship. Yes, we have a joint checking account that we opened a few months after getting married, and we use it to pay most of our shared bills like rent, utilities, and groceries. We each still have our own personal accounts too, but we make sure the joint one is used for anything household related. I usually pay the rent and internet, while they handle the electric and water bills. It just worked out that way based on our pay schedules. We also have one shared credit card that we both use for larger purchases like travel or home items, and we always sit down together at the end of the month to review our budget. Question number 17. What are your future plans? Children, vacations, large purchases. This question explores whether the couple has discussed long-term goals, which is typical in genuine marriages. Officers want to see that you're building a future together, not just sharing a temporary situation. We've definitely talked about our future. We're not in a rush to have children, but we both want to start a family in the next few years once we're more financially settled. Right now, we're saving up for a trip to Europe next summer. We've been dreaming about going to Italy together since we started dating. We're also planning to buy a car together by the end of the year, and eventually we want to own a home. These plans are important to us because they're not just goals. They're things we're actively working toward as a team. And finally, here are the last category of questions: family and social life interview questions. Question number 18. Have you met each other's families? What do they think of your spouse? This question helps determine how deeply involved each spouse is in the other's personal life. Meeting family members and having ongoing relationships with them suggests the marriage is genuine and not just for immigration purposes. Yes, we've both met each other's families. My spouse met my parents during the holidays in 2021, and they immediately got along. My mom especially loves how respectful and thoughtful they are. I met their family at a cousin's wedding a few months later, and everyone was really welcoming. Since then, we've had regular dinners with both sides of the family and even spent Thanksgiving together last year. Both families are supportive of our relationship and treat us like we've been part of the family for years. Question number 19. What cultural traditions or celebrations do you share? Officers ask this to see how your lives blend together and whether you've embraced one another's backgrounds. Sharing traditions, religious, cultural, or family-specific, demonstrates a stronger emotional and lifestyle connection. We come from different cultural backgrounds, but we've made it a point to embrace each other's traditions. My family celebrates Lunar New Year, and my spouse has learned how to make dumplings and participate in the festivities with my relatives. On their side, we celebrate Thanksgiving and Christmas with a big extended family gathering, which I really enjoy. We also started our own tradition of cooking a special meal together on our anniversary every year. It's been fun to blend old traditions with new ones that are unique to us. And finally, here's the last question. Question number 20. Who are your spouse's siblings and parents? Names, birthdays. This question tests how well you know your spouse's family. People most married couples are naturally familiar with. Accurate answers show you've taken the time to know your partner on a deeper level. My spouse's parents are Robert and Linda. Robert was born on March 3rd, and Linda's birthday is July 16th. They live in Florida, and we talk to them at least once a week. My spouse also has one younger brother named Jason. His birthday is October 9th, and he just started college last year. We've spent time with all of them, especially during holidays and family get-togethers. If you want to learn more on how to land jobs and reach your career goals, don't forget to hit that subscribe and bell notification button to get new videos every single week. Also, don't forget to hit that like button because that motivates me to keep doing what I do. Stay safe, keep smiling, and good luck.